Welcome back. So we are going to continue our practice material, and we are going to see that for unit 2 another very important thing is that if you are not asked a question about the production function, then this diagram is going to be very useful, which I'm going to tell you, and you will get tested in this on this diagram. So this diagram, if there is a talk about birth rate, death rate, birth rate, death rate, or some increase in technology, for example, then this is a very useful graph. And just remember that if you're not asked about production function, you have to use it. If production functions are asked, then you have to do all that. Now that we know that this, so what is this graph actually about? This is a graph. There are actually two graphs together, and you have to draw them vertically together, basically this way, that there are two graphs, because on the x-axis there is income on both of them. So you have income on both of them. This is y and this is y, but here it would be on the downward graph, it is population, but here it is birth rate, death rate. So the birth rate is always a positively sloped curve, and your death rate is a negatively sloped curve. And remember that the income and population have a negatively sloped relationship. It's a straight line, and right now the equilibrium is at a point y naught, and this is p naught. So you can see that in this way it's done. So what will happen, that for example you are told that the birth rate increases, and one of the reasons might be that the fertility rate has increased or something like that. So what will happen, that birth rate has increased, so it will how it will shift. If you look here, this is your increasing birth rate or death rate. So your birth rate has increased, so you will shift it on the left hand side, because for the same income more people are born. So you can see that this would be your new BR2, we can call it BR1. So now let's make a guess. When your birth rate is going to increase, what is going to happen? More births, less deaths. So what should be done? More population. So this, you can see that if you shift it leftwards, even common sense says that your population should increase, and this graph proves it. If you just increase your birth rate towards the upper side and just shift it leftwards, the new equilibrium is formed. Initially what will happen is that the births will exceed deaths. The birth rate is exceeding the death rate, but after that the equilibrium would be reached, and the equilibrium would be reached at this point, and a new power point would be formed in the new this curve, and this would be where this would be called as y1. Your income is going to decrease, and your population is going to increase. So when the birth rate increases, population increases, but due to this increase your income falls. So this means that your living standards fall. So this is what happens when your birth rate increases. This is the concept when the birth rate increases. In the same way, it's the birth rate. For example, if the death rate decreases, it would be again the same way. We'll just shift the death rate towards the left hand side, because it has decreased, because for the same death, for the same income, less people will die. So this if you draw it like this, it would be for decrease in death rate. Death rate decrease would be like this. So you can see that how it happens. Now you would be asked one thing, for example, either the death rate is going to increase or decrease, or the birth rate. So I'm just going to tell you that what will happen, so we can stop thinking about it. But the birth rate and death rate are very similar concepts, so I'm hopeful that you will be able to solve this question now. But another thing about this same topic is that you might also be told that there is an increase in technology, or so how will an increase in technology be shown in the same graph, by using the same graphs actually. So let's draw those diagrams again. The thing is, when the technology increases, you would be thinking that the birth rate and the death rate don't change. and this is exactly the case, that there would not be any effect on this curve initially, that the birth rate and the death rate do not change. This is your equilibrium, and this is your income, and this is your income, and this is your population. Initially nothing changes on the first diagram, so you see that this is your second graph, and this is drawn in this way. This is your, we can say it as T0. So there is an increase in technology. What will happen is that initially, due to increase in technology, for the same income there will be more population. So we studied that when technology increases, the population increases, because for the same income, population increases when the technologies change. So we will we'll shift it outward, and this would be the new technology. Due to new technology, this would be the new curve. So now you can see that instead of this, in which we had this point and this population, so this was your population P0. So what has happened? But the problem is that initially what happens? Initially what will happen is that you have a population P0, and in the short run it does not change. So population does not change, there is an increase in technology. So first of all, what thing happens is that your national income would increase. In the short run, your income would rise. Short run thing is that short run income rises. But when the income rises, what will happen? You go back, you see the birth rate gets greater than death rate. More births, less deaths. What will happen? Population increase. And till the point where birth rate becomes equal to death rate, and it would be like a movement along this line, and it would go to this point. And if we move together, what will happen in the long run? We move this point, your income falls again and comes back and comes back. And what happens is that the population increases to P1. So population has increased. So an increase in technology does nothing except increase in the population. So if there is one increase in technology and there is a lot of technology changes together, then there would be just a one shift in that initially your income will rise, but after that your birth rate would exceed the death rate, and thus more births, thus your population would increase, and your incomes will start falling, such that your incomes would come back to that position where the birth rate and death rate are equal, and such that you will come back to your income Y0, and your population would increase to P1. So you can see that this graph are very useful, and you will get tested on it too. So this is where our practice material ends. I hope you guys have a very good quiz, and inshallah you will all score good marks. Thank you.